And at what point, how many hires do you have when you start actually, separating this out and you start creating specialized sales functions? How does this all work?
Yep. Well, by the way, I should say that this is your number one kind of sales multiplier to make everything work better within the sales team. And if you haven't heard the term sales specialization, because I think it's very familiar in Silicon Valley and other companies, but a lot of people actually haven't heard of this. It just means that instead of expecting your salespeople to do both prospecting and closing deals, and often manage customers, and often maybe respond to inbound leads, that you specialize. So you've got prospectors who prospect and closers who close. And basically you have different teams, like a sports team where everyone has their role: inbound lead response, outbound prospecting, closing new customers, and managing customers. But I don't know any sports teams where the coach will go out and tell all the players, let's say football or soccer, football, I'm thinking about Europe because we're moving to Scotland shortly. All the players, all right, everybody go attack and everybody go defend and everybody be goalie.
Yeah.
But we do that in sales too often. So the answer is sales specialization, so people can do fewer things better. And you don't have to start when you've got 10 salespeople or 20. You can start when you've got really actually one, because you can specialize people's time. But then typically after one or two salespeople, let's say you got one or two senior salespeople, the next hire should be a junior one.
Yeah.
Who can take on some of the appointment setting roles, whether it's inbound or outbound. So it starts as early as you can. This idea of breaking out these different functions and how they work together as a team.
And there's a whole chapter on this. This is chapter 10 in the book. This is the revised version, by the way. So there's real life examples in here. And there's one company that you guys mentioned in this book, Clio, and they very much are specialized in the law vertical. But the example that I read was they didn't quite think about this ahead well enough. They kind of just were growing and scaling, and before you know it, they've got 8, 9, 10 reps all doing the same thing, and it's a disaster. So how did they kind of take a step back and say, whoa, we've got to fix this up? What was the process of kind of putting this back together in a way that is scalable for growth?
Yeah, so they had grown to, it was like 15 or 20 people, salespeople, everyone doing everything: prospecting, closing, managing customers, small customers, big customers. So this is, I don't know, probably at least 5 years ago, they broke it apart and they ended up with two teams. So we see there's these 4 core roles, right? Inbound lead response, outbound prospecting, signing new customers, managing customers. But they did 3 core roles, right? Because just for their business. So for the bigger law firms, they've got prospectors getting appointments, they've got salespeople signing them, and actually I'm sure they have a separate team managing. But the interesting thing is, again, for the small law firms, because it's a simple sales cycle, they would get a lot of inbound leads, and the same team would respond to those leads and close the customers, because I don't remember, it's like 1, 2, 3 calls. It's a very simple sales cycle. And so they had the same people responding to leads and closing them. Again, the idea is the principles focus. Whether you have 4 roles or whatever the number is, or 2 or 3, fewer people, more jobs, so people can do fewer things better. They can really focus on doing that job really well. Because when they have multiple jobs, it's just too much, and they don't do any of them well, or maybe just one of them well. So I would say salespeople shouldn't prospect, right? Because if you're expecting salespeople to do all their own prospecting, honestly, they're just not going to be very good at it. They're not going to like it, and they can't be consistent at it. It's basically impossible. Yeah. So sales specialization is the answer, and the way you do that, it's the way it might change to make sure it fits your business and the team and what you're trying to accomplish.
I love it, man. And it's so fascinating to me. Why is sales expected to do that, but not necessarily marketing? You would never hire a designer and say, hey, also designer, why don't you also write all this content and then develop the landing page and then run conversion rate optimization? Like you would never have that happen in marketing.
Or in development, right? You got like front end, back end, QA. It's just in sales. It's just a legacy, I think, for hundreds of years. You had to have salespeople out, on the planes, like they had to take their wares with the pots and pans or snake, whatever it was. I don't say snake oil, and they had to do everything themselves. But that's changed. It's just, you will struggle if you don't do it in a way that's good for your business. And another benefit, and it's like a couple key benefits of this, So there is a lot of, like, to some people, it's like so obvious, but a lot of people, they struggle to embrace it or to get their leaders to embrace it. But when you do break this out and the different teams do different things, it's so much easier to measure which parts of the sales team or lead gen functions are working, which one's not. You don't have this big hairball. Mm-hmm. You can kind of see. Mm-hmm. And then you get a lot more predictability. You kind of have this Lego system where if you need to hire more of one role, you can hire them and stack them, because it's a lot easier with this narrower scope per job to hire the right people, train them, onboard them, and ramp them.
Yeah.
And the last thing is related. You can develop a farm team system where you can start great people off of the junior roles, and as do well, they can kind of move up through the ranks. So really, it reduces kind of the risk of hiring all your salespeople from the outside, which can be expensive and risky. You get a much, much higher success rate with sales hiring and sales promotion. Right? I think the stat is like 30. Basically, on average, teams lose 30% of their salespeople per year, whether they are fired or quit. You want that down to be under 10%, and this is a way to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is a wake-up call for a lot of sales leaders out there. If you're watching this video and you're wondering, is it time for me to audit everything? It probably is. So go to fromimpossible.com where you can learn more about this. There's a whole chapter on it.